for her. She enjoys sport. She doesn't hate it. Okay.
A little bit, yeah.
Good.
She's more of a basketball.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's good.
Yeah.
Good for her.
They do like during PE, they do like running, and that's how they determine like who should come in.
Oh,
So like here we want to do this very bad. So it kind of helps her along, like
right.
her teacher telling her you should come in, so we try to encourage her that way.
Okay. Well, it's just great that she's doing something physical. Yeah. Because that's one of the things I see with kids in general is that they're just like physical.
Yeah. And that's
Who goes this? I can start just in the beginning.
was to have more.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's some for basketball. Hoops and quarters for some.
Go ahead.
Right.
Or really would be a grade eight.
Last year's track meet was at tomorrow, and it was like the woman's year. It's like free.
You said to record it? I sent to record it. Just
Oh, okay.
Where's your microphone? You didn't get one?
What's that?
It sounds like.
Your microphone.
My screen's already.
Recording in progress.
We're going to go ahead and start, but we're going to have to start back from the beginning of the meeting, so we'll have to go through roll call. And
Thank you, Ms. Barboa. We appreciate you guys getting that taken care of. So we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 1:14. If we can please have Ms. Barboa do roll call, please.
Jeffrey Anthony,
Present.
Catherine Arvizu,
Present.
Don Bell,
Here.
Owen Bro Sanders,
Here.
Cindy Coleman,
Present.
Luis Gonzalez, Red Morrow,
Here.
Raghu Nandan,
Present.
Peter Norquist,
Present.
Tiffany Rogers, Delia Sotelo,
Present.
Sophia Blue,
Present.
Erica Miranda Carter.
Present. Thank you again, everybody, for your patience while we had that little delay there. 2.03, are there any agenda adjustments? So we'll go ahead and move on with the agenda as is. We do have one call to the audience.
At this time during the meeting, members of the audience may address the Bond Oversight Committee in regard to items of concern in person or by sending their written comments to be read into the record. During the audience call, the Bond Oversight Committee Chair or Vice Chair will recognize speakers and maintain order by setting appropriate limitations. Any person desiring to speak shall provide their full name and topic on a call to the audience card. When addressing the Bond Oversight Committee, the speaker should begin by stating their full name and topic. Speakers are encouraged to be brief. The maximum speaking time is 3 minutes. Individuals attending the meeting and/or addressing the Bond Oversight Committee should observe rules of propriety and good conduct and refrain from impertinent or slanderous remarks. TUSD serves students from all ages, so speakers should be aware that children may be present. At the end of the audience call, the Bond Oversight Committee Chair will ask if individual Bond Oversight Committee members wish to respond to a speaker's criticism, ask staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter appear on a future agenda. By law, at most 2 Bond Oversight Committee members can address any single issue raised during the call to the audience.
Thank you, Ms. Blue. We have Frank Rosenhausler.
Yes, again, I'm Frank Rosenhauser, and I reside at 800 East 39th Street. I'm going to start my time. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I come before you not just as a representative of Pueblo High School, but as a voice for the students, families, and community members on Tucson's South Side. I'm here to ask you to invest in a turf field for Pueblo High School. not as a luxury, but as a necessity for equity, opportunity, and long-term sustainability. Currently, our grass field is in poor condition. So poor, in fact, that it's not just unplayable, it's unsafe. We have a unique opportunity to host a youth football camp specifically for students on the reservation, a chance to engage with young people and families to introduce them to our school and to the greater TUSD community. But because of our field's condition, we had to move the event off campus, away from the very place we hope to showcase. That's a missed opportunity for connection, for recruitment, and for pride for this school. Pueblo is one of only a few schools in TUSD that has maintained or grown enrollment. That's a testament to our students, our staff, and our commitment. But we are still losing students, not because of the education that we offer, but because of our facilities. We are surrounded by schools, both in and out of the district, that have turf fields and modern athletic amenities. When families tour those campuses and then visit ours, it's not a fair comparison, and our kids feel it. Our turf field would allow us to host camps, community events, games, and practices year-round, regardless of weather or sport. It would reduce water usage, a critical issue in Arizona, and drastically lower maintenance demands. Right now, schools like ours buy their own seed, buy their own sprinklers, and that money doesn't come from a special fund. Every dollar we spend on a sprinkler is a dollar not spent on a child. This is more than an athletic issue. It's a question of access. A turf field is a commitment to our youth, a signal that the children on the south side matter. And that they deserve the same thing that they see when we go to other schools, to the South Point. We are ready, we are organized, we are prepared to begin work immediately. Multiple youth organizations and current students asked to speak today, but I asked them to give me grace and let me speak for us all. So I ask you to please invest in Pueblo, invest in our students, and invest in the South Side. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rothenhauser. We appreciate you coming out here, taking the time from your day to be here and speak on behalf of your students and the community in the South Side. This is definitely a topic that has caught our attention, and we will be talking about it a little bit further because we do feel that our students, our athletes, our coaches, you all deserve better fields, you deserve better facilities. So this is definitely something that we already have, we'll be discussing a little bit further in detail today, and something that's already in the works. If anybody else has any comments, suggestions, or?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. I spent 25 years in TUSD, and a large amount of that is in the athletic field. So I concur with Mr. Rostenhausler about us losing students to other districts. I've seen it. I know people who have done it. I even did studies, informal studies before. The amount of money we save on maintenance, water, man hours to mow, painting the fields, all this stuff, if we do our due diligence, it's going to be about a 3 to 5 year turnaround on paying for the turf on the money we save on the maintenance and upkeep. And top of that, it would allow us to host events for the community, which is also very important to build community in the district. So hopefully, I just wanted to support what Mr. Rostenhausler says, and I think we should do that across the district as much as we can to keep our students here. Because if you look across Mountain View, you look at all the Valley schools, you look at Cienega, you look at all these schools, they got turf fields. So to compete with that, I think we need to make that step and really seriously look at doing that in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. With that, we're going to go ahead and take a short break right now. We are going to go outside to tour the electric. I'll have Dr. C tell you a little bit more. We're going to take a little tour outside.
Hello, everybody. This is great to me to be able to bring to you and show and tell. You know, back in elementary school, I don't know if middle school we did that, but to see some of the great work that you have approved and supported. So we have Kenny, our fleet manager, that has brought a special needs bus. If you recall, we had a $6 million, 20 regular diesel buses, and 10 special needs. We have received all 10 of the special needs, one of which is out there with the magnet. Progress is promised, your bond dollars at work. And so Kenny's going to show you some of the features and, you know, what the students would experience. And my understanding is that we may have one of these or some of these in service by the end of the year. We have it now? So in service. So if you guys will take a little tour with us, even though it's hot outside.
We'll be right
but
back.
I'm sorry, virtual people. I wish I could do a FaceTime. We'll take pics.
Losers.
I like your blouse, very pretty.
I did have a chance to see that on the IS. I believe I wanted to just. Yeah, no, it's good to meet you too. And I'll be doing my best to support you. Continue to work on this. Thank you. Yeah. We're gonna make it happen as long as they give us the okay. We're gonna make it happen. And we're gonna start with you. I know. Yeah, I know. So if they feel good, we'll bring it back next month for their approval. If they approve next month, we'll get it to the board with their approval. And Damon's already got the vendor lined up. He can start doing the work this summer so that when we start school, and you and Kevin over at Sabino, those are the first two schools are gonna go out of box. Yeah. Yeah, we're working on it. We're talking about it today. It's gonna be a district-wide thing, man.
Players good, man. I got a Dreamcatcher on. This thing, Rome. I got all kinds of stuff. I'm holy, so.
Well, it's working. It's working, bro, because we're here today and I started a thing. So, we'll work on it, bro.
Hi, can you tell me what you see on the screen, Cindy or Delia? Owen?
I see on the screen that Bond Oversight Committee recessed meeting. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
So that's what that's what should.
So they're saying that.
You have to see which window active you want to show.
That's it then. So it has to be screen one. And it'll show this. So when Sheeta comes up, you would do.
We're back. Thank you. We just took the little recess to tour the new special needs diesel buses. Thank you, Kenny, for bringing that for us to see it firsthand. So we're going to go ahead and move on to bond project updates. Dr. Carter?
Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that because I want you to see some of the good work that you're doing in approving. All right, so we're gonna just go over the Bond Oversight Committee updates. Hopefully, I had an opportunity to review the material. I'm not gonna go in great detail of all of this, but at least be able to answer your questions. And then the other thing, one thing I kind of learned after doing this multiple times, almost a year, well, over a year now, is that by the time I turn in the presentation, the updates are old because we are constantly doing updates. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to give them hot off the press information when you come to the meetings. So you have where we were at the time we turned those various things in. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. We're gonna go over our grounding principles. All right. As we know, we are committed to transparency, accountability, collaboration, excellence, customer service, and trusting relationships. We adhere to the Bond Oversight Committee Charter for scope and roles and responsibilities for the meetings. Be the BOC, you, and us, TUSD. We are partners and advocates. And hopefully we're seeing that more and more each time we meet. I am going to ask you to hold questions until the end of the presentation, and I do have a little demonstration after this presentation. And of course, if you have particular data requests that you have, we do have a method to evaluate. We would like for you to think about how does that impact your vote or the community awareness and transparency. Let's see. Do I need to go this way? Which way I need to point this? Okay. Oh, okay. Well, it's not switching for some reason. Okay, so I'm on page number 4 on the presentation. So real quick, pretty much all other projects now are underway for Q3 and 4 in some way. The Camp Cooper upgrades, we are in the process of getting the quotes and getting it through the purchasing process. Actually, Katie asked me about CTE automotive program because I am out in the field a lot, and I try to be out there more and more and more. So I hope you guys like my little, I know they're kind of corny, those videos, like what's up in the bond office? Well, we did a CTE bond actually video, and I just found out just now that one of the young ladies that we actually had pictures of and interviewed was her daughter. So you never know who you might meet, when you're out there. But for the CTE program, we have gotten the alignment machine in. We were at Tucson High, and the tire machine. In both areas, they have some equipment that's already came in. And so for the April newsletter, you'll see our video about it. Domestic water lines. We have been, when I say we, Damon has been working with the actual vendors, and they already have the scopes going into the domestic water line, so we could be sure of what we're going to be facing when we actually start full-fledged in May. So that's really exciting to us because we're able to get a lot of work staged and done ahead of time. Because we know, and I'm preparing you guys, there are going to be some unexpected things. So as much as we can do ahead of time, we're trying to do. And then we don't have any new progress really on the EV buses. You guys know we had the infrastructure, we had the other video about that. So they'll be back in June is what tentatively that's scheduled for the construction to continue on that. We have the fine art stage curtains. We have McGee, Doolin. Oh, that's sorry, that on that one. On the fine arts, we have the same one, Dodge, and I can't remember the other one. It's coming off my lips right quick, but that one, we just got in the Rincon Little Theater fine arts project for that. And then, of course, on the HVAC kitchens, they're going through the purchasing process. So we got all the HVAC kitchens quotes in. The controls were about 89%. So I did want, you guys remember you approved that $7 million that's there for when we need it. And I knew we was gonna need it. That's good planning right there. But anyway, I wanna tell you about a couple of sites that we have moved up on the list because of issues. One is that we definitely wanted to move up is Erickson and Warren. So I've asked that they go ahead and fill out the paperwork just so we have it documented on the exception list, but I'm going to go ahead and get quotes for that. Sabino, we had tentatively already scheduled. You know how we have on the website, we have the sites that are on the schedule, it's tentative. We had Sabino already scheduled for 2025 summer. And as we were thinking about, since we have the whole campus, all the staff and the students gone, this would be a really good opportunity to go ahead and do some HVAC work. So we're not going to be able to do all of the Sabino HVAC work because it's such a huge school. So we probably just do the central plant, we were thinking, or one of the other just buildings or areas. So we are going to do that as well. So those are some that we didn't originally have as high on the list that we're moving up. Okay, on the field lighting, already we have Sabino complete, Choya, Pablo, you see, he left. I was going to shout him out. Pablo, field lighting, and Tucson High. We were going to do Saguaro, but we had some issues with wildlife and we had to follow all the rules, so we ended up going to Rincon. Oh, Rincon today? Today. So the field lighting is moving on. So, and that's just something I wanted to let you guys know. If for some reason we're unable to do something for whatever reason, then we go to the next school or go to the next project. All right. Then marquees, that is one of the remember we had the 11 proposed projects for quarter 3 and 4, and I promised that it would be only schools that don't have a marquee. Well, Davis does have a marquee. It's a older, Ricky called it, let me see what he called it, a monument marquee. I had never really saw a marquee like that, but it is a marquee. And so, and kind of the way we define it, like if you can make changes to it and it has the logo on there and the name, I mean, that is, technically, that is a marquee. So we took that off the list. So it won't be 11, it'll be 10. That's the way we're going to do it because I want to make sure that, because if somebody else has a marquee, they're going to say, well, why did you do theirs versus another? So that is the reason why on that. All right. Permanent classroom construction upgrades, Rincon, Tucson High and Davis. So we have purchase orders and process on those now. We did have a little field trip in Phoenix to see some other schools that had structures. And so that was super interesting just to get ideas on, furniture and just different things that different people are doing. So we're really trying to be informed as we make suggestions and conceptual designs. We're trying to make sure that we are in the know. At least we go into things with our eyes open. School buses, you just seen that, where we have the 10 special needs buses. We don't have the other school buses yet, but I'm glad that Kenny offered to show us what some of the work looks like. And hopefully you guys saw the magnet, because that's advertising too for us. Everywhere that bus goes, people can remember that we are working, the bond team, and that their dollars are at work. The school health office upgrades, we're still working on that, trying to get all the, requirements and getting the actual quotes. It hasn't come to the bond office just yet, but it's in process. The parking lots and pavement, we're still looking at SFD for that. So I'm kind of holding, and I forgot to tell you some good news on some of the projects. So the Sabino domestic water line, we did get some funding. So the state building renewal, they did confirm their money, about $711,000. And then we also had the state adjacent ways. So we should know $814. So that means what we paid, because we had to get the project started. For bond, we did $1,056,000, but we had in the bond book right at 1.4. So that does help us. So I just want to let you guys know we are doing the due diligence. And then Carrillo, we're almost, that was confirmed too, at $48,000 that they're contributing. So you remember I had $140,000 that estimated. So we'll be right about at 119, 120. So we're a little bit less. So it does pay off to do our diligence and just try to have a process in which we determine, do you go or not go? Do you wait? Do you not wait? So I really think that Damon's team and Candace specifically, and even just all the project managers are doing a good job on getting this funding and help and working in concert with the bond. The school safety vehicles may be a little bit past May. We thought originally that most of those would be delivered in May, but we're still waiting on that. No, not waiting on it. Can't hear you. Okay, it'll be later, but we are keeping our eyes on it so we know when the various vehicles are going to be here. Then the gates, Project More, and you'll see a picture, that is actually complete now. And we had a really nice picture of the principal, super happy about having that gate and fencing as well. So with the gates and fencing, Project More, Sam Hughes, Ford, Keelan are complete. We got Benelia, C.E. Rose, Roberts, and Tosin in process. Security film, we had the 6 complete, and then the student device, we placed the order, but I don't think they've been received yet. So we have, as you can see, 42 million, just that. That's not Q1 stuff that we already did. So when I looked at the numbers, we constantly look at the numbers, and I have been helping me with those numbers. We are with Q, from where we are now in approved projects, we're at 70 million. I think that's super, super cool that we're able to do that. Now, this summer is going to be very, very, very busy. Next slide. All right, so there's a picture. The Project More, that first on the left, is where we were at the last time I showed you pictures. on the right is a happy customer, a happy customer. So I always like to share those type of photos, where we're actually able to complete something that's going to make a difference to students. Next slide. All right. So I do want to just continue to give a shout out to Denise, our bond administrative assistant. The bond newsletter is her creation. I knew I wanted it. I had it in our communications plan that I told you that we had, but I had no idea it was going to catch on fire. I had no idea. So in March, after seeing the newsletter, and I just, how you just throw a pass and just see where it goes, right? You just throw it, I did that and said, hey, communications department, can you get this newsletter out? I want it to go to students and families. And they did. And it went out to 43,000 email addresses, right? I was like, oh, wow. But this is what's exciting about it. As of today, because you can see on this newsletter if you look really hard, at this time that I put together a presentation, 26.9 thousand had viewed and opened this newsletter, right? Well, what was exciting about that, because you know how sometimes we do, I know I'm not the only person, you open something, you close it. It's like, oh, this is too much right now. Well, the good news, at the time that we got the stats, on average, the viewers were looking at it 9 minutes. That says a lot. That says a lot. So, and we do have a lot of information, video, just all that kind of thing. Well, as of yesterday, we're at 30,000 viewers. So we caught on to something, and so we definitely want to capitalize off of that. Oh, and by the way, in the newsletter, it's all our information. So it has information about the town hall, just all the things that we're doing. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a later presentation. And oh, by the way, thanks for those that did attend the virtual town hall. It was very successful. Okay. So the key dates, of course, Q4 begins. So we already started that April 1st. Of course, this is our meeting here, and then we'll continue to do our meetings. Don't forget that in June, we had to move it up because of Juneteenth. Okay. And you guys, did you see that picture? Did you guys see the picture right here? This is us. This is us. Those that were here was the Bond Oversight Committee that was here that day that we did the picture, as well as the team. So I want to do a little small demonstration. I got a new saying. You guys, we should have like a list of all these various things that, I'm saying and trying to get people to believe in. So I got another one. It's a little demonstration. So Damon, we're the dynamic duo. He laughed at my demonstration, but that's okay. So, as we look at projects and as we, think about, what we approve, what we don't approve, what we implement, what we don't implement, or what we don't do right now. Sometimes it's what we don't do right now, right? Because this is a 10-year bond. We're year one. So the saying is this: the bond is a pie. You got to show it to them. Don't get scared. We got it. You see how it's sliced? The bond is a pie. So those good in math, whole pie, how much money is that whole pie? How much? Okay. This is a very expensive pie. And oh, I did look it up because I was like, what's a popular pie here in Arizona? The most popular pie in Arizona is pecan pie. Yep. I didn't see one at the store, so I got apple, which is the second, I think, and then pumpkin. See, I do my research. Anyway, so the bond is a pie. not a well. Now, I gotta tell you this story. So I go on Amazon, right, looking for a well. And I had it like shipped overnight. And this is what I got, a miniature barrette. But the concept still remains. The bond is a pie, not a well. So my question is, Red, since you laughing out loud, what would that mean? What do you think, and why do you think that might be important?
We only got so many pieces.
And a well, although not that well,
Most of them are deep.
are very deep. And they're plenteous, and you can just keep pulling out the substance, the water out. Right, not here. But I just want, and we are going to eat the pie, by the way. So, but I do want to remind us that for this bond that we have right here, that's what we're working with. So it also means, though, if I don't have my knife, here's my knife. But if we add things that are not or weren't originally part, now I can make it bigger and give a project a bigger slice. But that means the other parts of the pie get less. So I just want to remind everybody as we make choices, just make sure that we're doing the priorities and what's most important. And I know, and it's so, and I tell you, it's super hard for me and Damon as we're prioritizing because there's over 1,700 projects and they're all important. I mean, everybody believes and feels like their project is most important, and they are to that school or to that administrator. We just heard from Frank, you know, and so I just as people think about the bond and think about how hard choices could be. So that's my new saying. Now, who has my well? Okay, he has my well. That could get lost. And that's the end of my update.
Thank you. We appreciate that demonstration, especially the well. So I motion to approve all current bond project updates.
Yes, can I just make one quick comment?
Sure.
Okay, Dr. Carter, I wanted to thank you actually because of some feedback that I got between the last meeting and this meeting about the survey that you promised to do. And I heard indirectly from 3 different principals. 2 of them were before the survey. It was the same thing that I had been hearing. They were unhappy that they had not been consulted about the needs of their individual schools. The 3rd one was after the survey went out, that principal seemed to be just overjoyed that she had received that survey. I assume she is representative of lots of other principals, and so you had promised to do that. You did it. I wanted to thank you for doing it because I'm starting to get appreciation, I think, from the people who received those.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by myself, second by Ms. Arabisu. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. So let's go ahead and move on to 4.02, approval of Bond Oversight Committee meeting minutes for their meeting of March 20th, 2025. If anybody needs extra time to review the minutes,
I move to approve.
I second. Motion by Ms. Blue, second by myself, Erica Miranda Carter. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Sorry about that. Opposed? Abstain? Alrighty then. So moving on to 5.01. Approval to recommend to the governing board the purchase of white fleet vehicles for the Facilities Management Department. Mr. Greg Meyer.
Miss Miranda Carter?
Yes.
If I can just hear for Owen if he voted on the minutes.
Sorry, I voted to approve.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Owen.
Me too.
Okay, folks, I think maybe somebody's gonna have to help me with this. I'm just hitting the button over here, right? Doesn't seem to work.
Give us 1 second. We're just gonna transfer it over. There you go. It's coming.
There we go. I think we're ready to go. Okay, so my name is Greg Meyer. I'm the Director of Facility Management. I didn't bring a pie with me, so I have to tell you, I guess maybe next time I'll have to do that. I don't think I can top the last presentation. But anyway, I'm here today to talk to you all about a proposal that we have for the restructuring our white fleet in the grounds department of the facility area. Okay, so our agenda today is we're going to talk about our mission. We're going to talk about the background of the project, the need, and the schools impacted, also the costs, of course. So first of all, in terms of the mission, so the Supplemental Grounds Division Utility Truck Fleet is our mission here to ensure timely service for maintenance of our curb appeal. This is so important because curb appeal, it's not only just outside of our schools, but it's also the inside of our schools as well. So both are equally important. And so that is really the mission of what we are wanting to do here. So under the background, okay, so it's important for you all to know that so far we've lost a total of 4 utility trucks due to the age of the trucks and also our inability to find repair parts. So they were basically sent to the scrapyard. So we lost 4 trucks for that. In addition, we have 4 other trucks that are over 25 years old, and they do break down on a regular basis, and they do need to be replaced. We have a dump truck that's important to our operation as well, especially during times of the monsoons and so forth. We use a lot of dump trucks there. Just to remove debris and the delivery of wood chips to our playgrounds and so forth. Dump trucks are very important to us as well. We have a 34-year-old truck that must be replaced as well. So what it means in the end run is that actually the lack of adequate utility trucks for the grounds department really does impact their ability to get their jobs done that are so important to our schools. Okay, so a little bit more background. I think maybe you remember not long ago the governing board did approve Brightview Landscaping to help us with the maintenance of our fields this summer. And so what Brightview is going to be doing is they're going to mow the fields behind the schools. They're going to trim the fence lines, which has always been a really hard thing for us to accomplish within the department, and also a weed control as well. So the weeds are another thing that's always plagued us through the years as well. So that's what Brightview is going to be doing for us. And so then what it's going to allow our grounds department to do is to focus on the curb appeal out in front of our schools and also the courtyards back behind. And so one of the things that I'm really looking forward to, and I think you all are as well, is how about if we get rid of these dead trees that we have, because they're unsightly, and that's just been something that I've noticed since I've been here almost 4 years now, that I'd really like to see us take care of, are the dead trees. So there's going to be a lot of focus put on that this summer too. So anyway, then the purchase of the vehicles will definitely improve the overall condition of our fleet. That'll improve the safety of students and staff in providing more effective service to our schools. Okay, so the need then, so at the present time, we do need to replace the 4 vehicles that I told you we couldn't even find parts for anymore because of their age, that we had to send to the scrap yard. So we need to replace those 4. And then you'll see the listing here. I have to apologize. There's actually one more on this list. So you can see what we've got here, a 94, a 95, a 99 one-ton utility. There's also another 99 one-ton utility truck that we need to replace as well. So I apologize for that one falling off of the slide. But anyway, 31 years old, 30 years old, 26 times 2, and then the best one is the 91 dump truck, the GMC. But you'll get a chance to see that one in the flash coming up. But anyway, that's really what it is right now. Those are the ones that we do need to replace. Okay, so as I said, now you kind of get an idea what we're talking about here. And I know it's a little hard to see up there on the screen because it's a little, it's a kind of light. But anyway, I think probably in your packets you can see this a lot better. But the truck on the left-hand side, that's the dump truck that we want to replace. That's the one that's 34 years old. And the other truck over there on the right is a truck that is basically a flatbed. So we're not intending to replace that, but it kind of gives you an idea what the condition of some of those trucks are. It's not good. Okay. Now here's a slide here that shows 2 of the trucks that we are recommending that we replace, and not a lot of paint on those trucks, and so I think they definitely have seen their better days. Okay, so as far as how this impacts the schools then, of course the grounds department is out in the following locations right now. We have 47 elementary schools, we have 15 K-8s, and we have 11 middle schools. Plus we also have our district support sites, such as the 1010, the LERC, and so forth. Okay, so next, let's go over the costs of what the proposal is. I'm going to get this out so I can read it just a little better. Okay, so the first item up there would be the 3/4 ton standard cab trucks. There are 3 of those, and you can see the unit cost there, almost $56,000 per truck. So the total cost of those 3 is $167,508. And moving down, and I'll get back to the total cost in just a little bit here, but the 3/4 ton crew cab trucks, there are 5 of those. And the reason why those crew trucks are important is because it's really difficult to cram 3 big landscapers into a 3/4 ton single cab truck. I mean, if they were all skinny, we might be able to do it, but that's a really hard thing to do. So the reason why we went with those club cabs is because we can easily get 4 landscapers in a truck, and that's important too. When we have to respond to an emergency, we don't have to take as many trucks. We can get the guys out there and gals out there faster. So that's why we went with those 5 crew cabs on the 3/4 tons, and so those are almost $60,000 a piece. So that total there is $299,530. And then the dump truck replacement, that one came out to $123,970. And then finally you have your taxes and extended warranties and so forth, and that one comes to $73,458. So the decision was made to split the funding on this project between the bond project and also our school plant funds. And so the total cost down here comes out to $664,468, but split equally between the bond and the plant funds. It comes out to $332,234 that would actually come from the bond funds. So now, before I take your questions, I'll be glad to do that. But before I do that, I just want to tell you that I'm extremely proud of our grounds department. They are all in on trying to make sure that they do everything they can to help the schools put their best foot forward, because we know how important that is. And it's my job as the director to just make sure that they have the resources available to them to allow them to do their jobs to the greatest extent and to the best of their abilities. So that's where I come into play. And so I just wanted to say that before I take any questions. Yes, sir.
Thank you for your presentation. My main question is, in the bond book here, is this coming from the support vehicles and equipment line? That's for $2.4 million, because I will note that we already spent $1.44 million on that. So I'm just trying to get an idea of where this money's coming from.
I believe that's right. It's coming from that line, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yes, ma'am.
So mine's not related to the vehicles, but the groundskeeping. I appreciate you removing dead trees, but are we going to replace them, or can we partner with the mayor's Million Trees program to put trees back in the schools? Because many that I've been to are bare, and it's hot.
I certainly think that we can do that for sure. I mean, and I think what we have to look at is our district standards for the type of trees that we would need to plant and where they would be located, because anytime that you have trees right next to the foundation of a building, say for example, Doolin on the north side, they have those trees going up. I mean, they're like a foot away from the building, and I've often thought about, whoa, that must have been done a long time ago. We wouldn't do that today. So as long as the trees are 20 foot away from the buildings, we're fine with that. And it just has to make sure that they are the type of trees that are approved by the district. So we just have to follow our protocols on all that. But I'm all in on trees, and I think that we can partner with the different organizations around Tucson to make that happen. I think that's a great thing. And there's other things we can do too, water harvesting and things like that. We're always open to that. So it's just a matter of, I guess, getting us all together and trying to get a good plan together, because we tend to get sidetracked a lot. And so that's really what we would have to do, is to get a good plan together on how we might do that. But I think that would be a good initiative for us, and it would just depend on where we'd want to put the trees and just to make sure they're the right ones.
Well, feel free to get rid of those at Doolin if you think they're in the way.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, because you're over there. And so, but anyway, I don't know. They're kind of historic, aren't they? But anyway, just like the school. But so anyway, does anybody have any other questions?
I just have one thing on your note too. Years and years ago, when the solar panels were installed and I was working at Lineweaver, we took out a whole bunch of like old big eucalyptus trees, and the neighborhood was up in arms about tree removal. And so I just think that we should really like have this be at the forefront, even if it's not with the bond committee, of when we remove trees and what it looks like to the neighborhoods and to the families that are around it. And even if they're dead, like I agree, get rid of all the dead trees, they look terrible. Mm-hmm. But that there should be some sort of initiative, because the old ones that we've put in have been there for like 50 years and not another tree has been planted in the last 50 years. And so I think that does need to be initiative going forward after removal of the ugly ones, yeah.
Okay, good point. Yep. Very good. And I just wanted to say I have been involved in these tree discussions with the neighbors, and so there can be pretty vocal. And so, but we always want to work with our neighbors and make sure that they value us being in their neighborhood and all of that. And so that's fine. That's not a problem. But I think that's a good point.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No? So I motion to recommend to the governing board the purchase of white fleet vehicles for the Facilities Management Department.
Second.
Motion by myself, second by Ms. Blue. Ms. Barboa, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Jeffrey Anthony?
Yes.
Catherine Arvizu?
Yes.
Don Bell?
Yes.
Owen Bro Sanders?
Yes.
Cindy Coleman?
Yes.
Red Morrow?
Yes.
Raghu Nandan?
Yes.
Peter Norquist?
Yes.
Delia Sotelo?
Yes.
Sophia Blue?
Yes.
Erica Miranda Carter?
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to item 5.02, approval to recommend to the governing board the purchase of replacement convection ovens and dish machines for Davis Bilingual Elementary Magnet, Robbins K-8, and Robbins Elementary. Dr. Carter?
Hello, everybody. We have another presentation, and I always like to get the people actually doing the work, doing the presentation, but this is something I think is super important. And again, we're trying to take advantage of when we have systems already down or sites down to do as much as we can.
Good afternoon. I'm Lindsay Aguilar, the Director of Food Services at TUSD. So I'm here this afternoon to request your consideration of approving some convection oven and dish machine replacements at the sites that you've previously approved for the kitchen HVAC. So that's Davis, Robeson, Robbins, and Plenman. Thank you. So as Dr. Carter mentioned, we're looking at this from a holistic approach since we're already going in this summer. The kitchens will be shut down. Obviously, there'll be work being done on the hood systems, which are the exhaust system that tie into the HVAC system. So it's a perfect time to assess our extremely old convection ovens and dish machines that are in much need of repair. So I've gone through with my equipment team. We've identified which ones that we'd like to recommend at this time, which is a single convection oven at Davis, which is replacing a 1980 convection oven, just for your knowledge, and a dish machine at Robbins. Their convection oven was installed in 1990. As well as their dish machine, and Robeson is a dish machine replacement. So across our kitchens, our convection ovens range anywhere from 1975 to 1991 is the most newest one I've been able to find. So obviously these are integral in our production of meals every day across our kitchen. We do have newer combi ovens that were installed with the last bond, which was tremendous, but those are now over 25 years old. So we're in real need to do some equipment replacements to continue our services of preparing food at our school sites. So the total ask for this is $101,203 is the quotes that we got. Again, that's for 2 convection ovens and 3 dish machines. The dish machines are obviously used to clean and sanitize our dishes. This also ties in with our climate action policy, of course, with all of these as Energy Star pieces of equipment, and then moving back to using silverware instead of plastic utensils. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. Quick question. Is this coming from the building renovations line item on each? Okay. All right, that's my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? No?
I motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, so motion by Ms. Arvizu, second by Ms. Bell. Can we go ahead and take a roll call vote on that? Ms. Barboa?
Jeffrey Anthony,
Yes.
Catherine Arvizu,
Yes.
Don Bell,
Yes.
O. Ambrose Sanders,
Yes.
Cindy Coleman,
Yes.
Red Morrow,
Yes.
Raghu Nandan,
Yes.
Peter Norquist,
Yes.
Delia Sotelo,
Yes.
Sophia Blue,
Yes.
Erica Miranda Carter.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay then, what do we have on? Alrighty then, 5.03, discussion regarding bond committee meeting time. This was requested by Mr. Norquist to be placed on there.
Yes, it is. So yeah, if I can just say a couple things about this. I asked for this to be placed on here after the call to the public at the last meeting when Ms. Ruiz brought this point up. But I don't think that she's necessarily alone in being concerned about the meeting time. And full disclosure, I want to admit when we first formed a year ago and we were sent a survey about the time that we should be meeting in the day, I didn't even think about this, so I was one of the people who requested the afternoon because it honestly fits better into my schedule. But that being said, I think there is an argument to be made for getting more input from the public if we were to move the meeting date or the meeting time later in the day, because there are a lot of people who are at work or otherwise engaged in other activities during the day. So I just wanted to ask if we could reopen discussion on that, about the possibility of moving to a later time to accommodate calls to the public. And I know for those of us who attend a lot of these kinds of meetings, when you think of call to the public, a lot of the time you think of inviting criticism. But I think Mr. Rosenhauser today was a great example of someone who is not here to criticize. He's here to, make a genuine plea. And I appreciated what he had to say, providing some additional details to fill out that situation and that need for us more. So that's basically the reason why I want to consider making that opportunity at least potentially available to more people who I think may be missing it because they just can't be here in the afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Norquist. Originally, when we set this time, this was the time that was most convenient for all of us that are present here. So, yes, of course, we're always open to changing that time. I absolutely agree that it's important for our community to be able to speak if they feel then you need to come and speak to us or present to us. That is why we made that amendment where we allow for written comments to come in. We've been meeting for a year, 2 months already, and it's only been one request to change our meeting time. I feel like if the community felt that we need to change our time, we would have heard from more community members. I'm not dismissing that, disregarding that if somebody else feels that we should be changing our meeting time.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the meeting once a month at the most, I think that's if people really wanted to come and see, they could make arrangements to do so. We do our schedule ahead of time. I'm not sure that it would benefit us as a committee to make it later because then we start opening up the can of worms. Well, 5 o'clock's no good because it's dinner time, and 6 o'clock's no good because my kid's playing. And so, I mean, we're opening a can of worms with the time. And like I would agree with you. I mean, we've heard one complaint, not that there isn't other ones, but we got good communication out there with the webpage and everything else. And I just think we're doing about as best we can to be efficient.
And I'll just add to that too, with the town halls being available now and later in the day too, I think that sort of cures that need as well. I know if this time changed, I wouldn't be able to make it to another meeting later in the day. Like a lot of us have kids, and at 4 o'clock I check into my other job as driver mom for like 3 hours every day. So after that, it would be impossible for some of us. But I do think that the town halls have given that opportunity, especially because they're on Zoom. You can take it from your house, and it's at a later time that it's sort of cured that need in the community if they wanted to participate.
Right. Plus, our meetings are recorded and are available to be viewed on YouTube. That's the following day. Is that correct, Ms. Barbara?
We usually try to get it up for the following day, but it's within the 72 hours, which is the time that we have to have it in place. So.
Absolutely, if that changes in the future where most of us aren't able to make it in the evening, because that would be the case for me. I'm like Ms. Arvizu. I'm Uber after that. I was at the town hall, but I was at a track meet at that time, cheering and listening at the same time. So I appreciate you raising this, but yes, we can revisit this topic again in the future. Should we hear more from the community that we should change our time? Is there anybody else that would like to?
Yeah, I do think the community has options to give their comments. So between written comments and maybe coming in via Zoom, I do think we're giving them plenty of opportunities. It doesn't mean that there are others who would appreciate more, but I also think we're all doing this on a volunteer basis, and our time should have some value as well.
Thank you, Mr. Nathan. So
I mean, the only thing, I agree with what everyone said. The only thing I was thinking is that when you do the next round of invitations for people to sit on the next board, you could say, we plan on meeting after 5, and then people could make that decision. I have children. There is absolutely no way I could do after 5. It's just not going to work. But that if I knew that ahead of time, I could make that decision. So that's just my recommendation. Yeah.
Good point.
So, Madam Chair, if I can just make a final comment. I appreciate everyone's input on this. And like I said, I am I'm sympathetic because this is better for me too, to be honest. So the only other thing I wanted to mention is I have heard in passing a couple of other people mention at governing board meetings the fact that they might like to see a later time. Just want to put on the record that I've heard from more than one person. No one has approached me purely because of that. It's just been in conversation. But the only other thing I can think maybe to suggest would be at some point send another survey to ask what times people might be available. I don't want it to exclude anyone who's already participating, like Mr. I'm sorry, I only know you by Raghu. Nandit. Yeah, so like Mr. Nandit said, some people may have to not participate who are currently here. I wouldn't want to see that either. So I just appreciate everyone's consideration given the reasons I already gave, because I think this is something that is built for public input, because public first, they go through us ultimately to governing board. I just wanted to make sure those channels are open as widely as possible. So thanks for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Norquist. Before I just wanted to make a quick correction. We do not have the meeting available on Zoom. Zoom is exclusively for BOC members, but it is recorded. And did you want to make a motion, Mr. Norquist, to change the time?
So I doubt that it would pass, given everyone's comments. What I would like to actually, I don't know if I may make a motion to send out another survey, just collecting everyone's potential times that they could participate for your benefit. If you would be willing to take a look at that and then see if it looks like there's any possibility of flexibility there.
By another survey, you mean like the one Dr. Carter sent, or what?
So a survey that was sent to us, I don't know who sent the initial survey when this committee was first set up.
Was that when we first met? I think you guys,
I like that idea, but I like it when we renew, or like when our term is up.
Sure.
Like every 2 years. Like if there's a new batch of people who come in, like I like that. I think that we've
Mr. Risu, we can't hear you on Zoom.
Oh, sorry. To send out a new one at the end of every term, or when a new term is appointed, because I think we've done that. I think we've had the discussion to say this time does work for us, during this discussion now. And so when the term is up and when there's a new appointment, I think that's the appropriate time to readjust schedules. And we only have 10 months left of our term.
Right, okay. No, I think that's reasonable. I'd be happy to accept that suggestion. I don't know if that requires a vote or anything, or if we can just put it on record as a recommendation, but that would be fine, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your input. We appreciate that. So moving on to item 5.04, discussion regarding public notices of Bond Oversight Committee meeting minutes. With that, I'd like to say we do meet open meeting law regulations, as far as we do have our meeting times posted on our website, as well as the TUSD calendar and upcoming events. In addition to that, multiple things to that. First of all, it was suggested that we make a posting in the newspaper. Our committee does not have any funding or budget to allow for that, to pay for that. Normally, the committees do mirror what the TUSD governing board does, but just aside from all that, we do have Dr. Carter's newsletter that is going out to our entire community, and she just gave you numbers of how many people are viewing that. In addition to that, the Finance Department recently launched their social media pages, which they put there. One of their first posts was the Bond Oversight Committee schedule. Today, I loved opening up social media, and it was right there in big old letters, reminder, BOC meeting today. In addition to that, I myself have shared this on my socials. Chief Financial Officer Ricky Hernandez has shared it on his social media. Our board members, Dr. Ravi Shah, Natalie Luna Rosen, President Jennifer Ekstrom have shared it on their social media pages. So as far as the dates being out there, our schedule, it's out. They're out there. Unless anybody else has any suggestions as to what we should be doing different.
I just have one more question, Madam Chair. And I also want to say thank you for whoever put this presentation together. It's great, including the clickable links. Thanks for getting it all together in one place. And I have no complaints about this. I just have a clarifying question about the newsletter, which has also been great, and I've been receiving that. I think it's looking really good, and I'm encouraged to hear about the numbers. So thank you, Dr. Carter, for giving a report on that, letting us know who's reading them and for how long. Since we don't have access to that data, that was really encouraging to hear. So in terms of who was put on the newsletter originally, was there a preset list of TUSD parents and employees? Is that how that worked?
Thanks, Peter, for that question. I went to communication, so it's their distribution list they have of all the families. So that's the list that we're using.
Okay, super. That's what I was assuming. Thank you for just clarifying that. If someone who is not in the TUSD system wanted to receive the newsletter, how would they be able to subscribe or find that to do that?
So that was a question from I think a previous meeting.
Okay.
Right now, we don't have a methodology to do outside community. Okay. So this was our first attempt to do something very, big.
Yeah.
And so that's something that we'll have to look at, whether that's on, and that the question is, how do you get that out there to people we don't know who that may be or not be? But that is something I did post to the communications group, that was a request, because the thinking that we're trying to do as we're looking at all our stakeholders, it's a difference between a push and a pull, right? With data or technology. So one of the things that I felt like the BLC was saying is that we don't want to always have them to pull, like they have to go find it or go get it. We want to do push. So that's kind of where the idea came from, but using, addresses and distribution lists that we already have, so we can push it out there. And that's something that we can control. Like we can, control when that happens, or, through the communications group. So one of the thoughts that I had, being a technology person, is if some way we can have where we can subscribe or have people forward or to send to their friends, and or even one of the things I wanted to mention, if you guys have community groups and PTAs and different ways, it starts with us pushing it out to different community groups or things that we have relationships with. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is that the communications group, because we're doing some videos and news, we're really like out there trying to publicize, because I'm trying to reach all the stakeholders. They mentioned to us that they would like to see or want to discuss with us, we have a meeting next week, for us to have our own YouTube channel, for us to have our own Facebook page, and for us to have our own, what's the other one? Instagram. So, we're starting to think bigger now. So if you have ideas, let us know. But right now, the tools are really what communications has, but we're exploring others.
No, that sounds wonderful. And just final follow-up question on that then, because I have forwarded my own letter that I've received to other people who are interested, but they're not in the TUSD system. And forgive me if I've overlooked this. When I forward that, is there a subscribe function?
It isn't. That's what I'm saying. S'mores well, I did mention that to her too.
Okay.
S'mores is what we're using, but we're getting ready to get a new software package that communication is going to be using, so we can explore it with that package. The S'mores in and of itself doesn't have a subscribe as part of it.
Okay.
But can they access it on the bond website? Is it posted though?
We're getting that added, but that's still a pull, not a push. The push is where you say, I'm interested, and you get something that easily for you to go to, opposed to, so that's kind of the difference. And I think there's a way. We just give us a little bit more grace to get it out there and get it developed.
I have a couple of questions before I forget what they are. One of them is that I know that there is an expense involved in putting something out into the newspaper, and I know that your TUSD comms is probably already putting out press releases about different things related to the bond, and I think that's a good way to get some like free media. The other thing I was going to ask is, like, my child's school sends text messages. And this wouldn't be for the meetings, but I think more this would be for like those town halls, because if I got a text message from my kid's school like that day, even, I would probably just like, and it had a link to the Zoom, I would, be able to just pop right on there. So it's just something that I was wondering if it would be possible or if you could consider that.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I do know that a lot of, at least I've heard, some of the schools, they do that just to say, hey, this is out there, go. So that is definitely an option. I think probably waiting until they bring out the new package so we don't have to try to figure things out multiple times. But I think that's definitely a viable option.
I have a question. I don't know that I'm getting the newsletter, and I'm outside of TUSD. I don't know if it's going to my junk mail. Can somebody double check that at least the committee members are on the list?
Well, I
Maybe it's just me.
specifically had Yolanda send to both the governing board and BOC, so I'm not sure. I mean, so it's going, if you're getting the other emails, you should be getting that as well.
I'm searching and I'm not finding them, so.
I'll
Did you
check.
search under Ms.? It would be coming from Ms. Barboa.
From Yolanda.
Any other questions, comments? Ms. Ekstrom?
Oh, it's, there's.
Oh. I just think it's crazy that we don't have a feature to have people subscribe to our stuff. So that's something the governing board I'll take back to Dr. Trujillo.
At least far as I know, like I said.
I'm looking on the website and I can't find anything that says sign me up or anything like that.
Thank you, Ms. Ekstrom. So if anybody else if there's no more questions or comments, we'll go ahead and move on to our next item. Information item, Dr. Carter? Or Mr. Hernandez, artificial turf installation for high school fields.
Good afternoon, committee members. I'm going to give you a presentation, as has been our tradition, to give you guys information about what we're looking for in terms of projects for the bond before we actually ask you to make some decisions. And obviously, this one is a little bit, well, a lot of it, I will say, kind of out of the blue. Artificial turf at our high school football field specifically. Dr. Trujillo has asked finance and facilities and the bond to put together essentially a strategy for how we could potentially roll out installation of artificial turf at our various high schools. So currently the bond program doesn't have artificial turf included in it, other than for Sabino High School. It doesn't move. Yeah, it's on.
Is it going up?
Hold on. Okay, now it does. So Sabino High School was the only one who actually had a artificial turf included as part of its original bond package. The current funding related to football fields, or just the fields at the high schools, is related to just repair. So $275 allocated to all of the high schools that have fields to just essentially fix divots and exactly what the football fields are messed up with, essentially, right? And what does that look like, from a facilities perspective? So some high school principals, particularly Mr. Rosenhauser from Pueblo, have expressed safety concerns around the use of the fields because of, unfortunately, the nature of the way the fields are just used, not only by our students, but by outside groups. There are concerns around safety and liability, both for our kids, but also for outside groups who want to come in and use our fields. As the Pueblo principal mentioned, we've had instances where we have had to move events off campus to use a better facility. This is not only just a loss to the school, right? Being able to kind of show off your school, but to a certain degree, it's also a loss of revenue because these schools are able to collect civic center money by essentially leasing their fields out to these private groups to come in and use them. So they're losing on potential revenue that they could be generating. So as I mentioned, the superintendent has asked us to look at some form of investment strategy that includes bond funding to upgrade all of our football fields to artificial turf. So the affected high schools would be Catalina, Choya, Palo Verde, Pueblo, Rincon, Sabino, Saguaro, and Santa Rita. Tucson High is not in there. Tucson High got an artificial turf in the 2004 bond program, and when they had this major flood issue, it was replaced by insurance in 2017. Theirs obviously needs to be addressed more from a maintenance perspective than from a replacement one, but ultimately, our high schools want to look like the Tucson High football field is really what the goal is. So the strategy that we've looked at is to look at this from a multi-year perspective to install artificial turf starting with the next school year. We would start with the initial replacement of Pueblo High School and Sabino High School. Sabino obviously already has funds allocated. And the fact that we're shutting down Sabino for the summer for domestic water line improvement would allow easier access to the campus to just essentially kill two birds with one stone at the Sabino campus. The remaining high schools would be done in paired orders, in paired order, I should say, and it would be basically an east side, west side. So after Sabino and Pueblo, we'd look at Choya and Saguaro, then we'd follow up with Catalina and Rincon University, and then finally with Palo Verde and eventually Santa Rita. So there are different strategies around, Rincon, for example, recently had a refurbishment essentially of their field through a private donation, which is why we've put them out there a little bit further. Palo Verde is part of a larger strategy with the city of Tucson as part of a flood retention basin. So there will be actually funding from the city potentially to do Palo Verde down the road when we strategize that out with the city. So this kind of aligns with some of what's already happened or some of things that will happen. Now the replacement would only actually be for the field and the prism, right? We're not looking at tracks. We're not looking at football uprights. We're not looking at bleachers and scoreboards, right? We're literally talking about the pitch and that's it. So that's kind of what from the financing perspective, this is what it looks like. So the estimated cost, depending on the high school, is anywhere between 1.9 and 2.3 million per high school. So we'd need approximately between 13.3 and 16.1 million dollars to do the entire program over the course of the next 3 to 5 years. All high schools, with the exception of Innovation Tech, Rincon University, and Tucson High, received that field repair money as part of the bond program. So when you take all 7 of those, that's about $1.9 million that we would reallocate for the use of the turf replacement, since we no longer will be doing repairs. Sabino has already allocated the 2.1, so they would automatically be part of the strategy. Also, all high schools, with the exception of Innovation Tech High School, were allocated $1.7 million for Windows laptops replacement, essentially to buy new Chromebooks. This was also available at Sabino, at Tucson High, and University. The available total amongst all of these is just over $17 million. Chromebooks cost about $300. $1.7 million for Catalina High School that has about 500 students. I mean, they don't need 1.7 million is what we're getting at. The numbers are essentially kind of inflated in such a way because we were looking at a greater rollout, but we've been able to do a rollout of the Chromebook process, particularly at the high schools who mostly started with HPs and we're moving them away from that. We would still have dollars available to do that through the central allocation versus the high school allocation. But ultimately, every high school doesn't need $1.7 million because every single high school was allocated this in the bond book. So as I mentioned, right now we've got just under 13,000 high school students and $350 a pop. We need about 4.4 million to replace those laptops for Chromebooks. And in fact, we've already started rolling them out. right? Tucson High, for example, which is our largest high school, they have Chromebooks, right? And so this is a process that's actually already in effect, so we wouldn't even need the full 4.4 because that's part of funding that the bond program and the district's capital funding has already allocated for. So that potentially would leave about $12.8 million when you pull out replacement Chromebooks for every single student in our high schools. That includes innovation tech, right? And technically innovation tech, we treat them differently. They're a partner obviously with JTED. And so their capital needs are a bit different, but ultimately those students are our students. And so we would need to provide them equitable access to that technology. So in sum, this is what it would look like, right? So going back to my original slide, between 13.3 and 16.1, if we reallocate 12.8 million from the technology, the field repair of 1.9 million, and obviously including the Sabino High School allocation, this would be about 16.8 million. So just under 16.9 million, that would essentially cover all of these. Again, the quotes are gonna differ high school to high school depending on the level of repair. Some are worse off than others, i.e. Pueblo, versus others who've had consistent maintenance, like Choya is one that has actually had better maintenance programs in terms of their field. If we move forward with this, in talking to the project management department, they're able to actually start with Pueblo in addition to Sabino this summer to try to get these, well, not try, but with the goal of having them completed by the first day of school. So that when football season basically starts at Pueblo and Sabino, these kids are playing on a brand new field with brand new turf and brand new lights. Makes for a good Friday night, in my view. So the next steps at this point is, again, project management has worked and is continuing to work on obtaining quotes from vendors to work on the Pueblo and Sabino turf installation. We would come back to you if, depending on the feedback we get today, with a recommendation at your May 15th meeting. If you recommend, that it go to the board, we would take this to the board on May 27th. And with their blessing, we would be able to get started immediately after that board meeting. And I will open it up to questions.
Yeah, I got some. I noticed that it's just the field and it's not the track or uprights scoreboard I get. My concern with the track and the uprights is we put in this $1 million field and we got old uprights. It's not going to look good for the price it would cost to add the uprights and do it properly. The other question, I've seen track repair, and Rincon just had some, and I've seen what it does to the football field when they replace the track. So my concern is that we put in this nice big turf field and then we go back later. How old are the tracks at Pueblo and Sabino? Yeah. And if they're in need of repair, I want to throw out something that I think we should do a package deal, and it's going to be more money, but do we want to put in a turf field and then 2 years later decide that the uprights look horrible and we want to do the uprights and the track needs repaired? Now we got to, so I'm kind of throwing that out there for those two specific reasons.
So we've looked at, tracks have been brought to our attention. I know Tucson High and Saguaro and Catalina were brought to our attention. Catalina's the one that gets used the most by outside groups. Even though it gets beaten down the worst, right? Because it gets more use. We didn't consider that as part of this. That's a great suggestion, is to try to see, can we do tracks with football fields at the same time? Ultimately, in the bond book does have track repair. It doesn't have track replacement. Obviously, those are completely different price packages, but depending on the level of, damage to those tracks, we can look at replacement for some and repair for others. I'm thinking it's probably going to lean more towards replacement than repair. I know we've already started working on Saguaro is one, Catalina's the other, and then Tucson High, I think, is we're looking at. We've already, Interscholastics brought that one to our attention recently. So tracks are on our radar. The uprights, I don't know what the...
Discussions with each of the vendors that we spoke with, we had them put that in as an option. because again, we're anticipating that question. Possibly, you look, because they do have the older uprights that are pinned on both sides. And then the issue comes in when football season's out, the width of those don't meet the requirement for soccer. And the easy thing is they just they pin the goals on the inside of the upright. So, again, it alleviates that issue. And then the big one is a safety. So the new uprights, it's concave, so it's separated from the back end zone by 6 feet.
Right.
So right now, the current uprights that are at those sites are pinned on both sides right at the end zone. So it provides a buffer as well as a pad. So if somebody catches or falls over, there's that area. But it is being included as an option. And the tracks are, as Ricky mentioned, being evaluated. We've taken a look at the ones that he had mentioned. Those right now are being evaluated more for a structural overspray. So what we've done is we've taken a look at the tracks to see what condition they are, and taken core samples. And the sites that we've initially evaluated, those are all probably better off with a structural spray, which provides about anywhere between 3/8 and a half inch of a rubber compound that goes on that basically increases the design life of your field for about another, or your track surface for about another 6 to 8 years. And it's basically what they do is they'll come out, fix cracks, and do the repairs, and then come out with the large machine. It's almost like a paving machine, but it's a rubber component that they spray along the entire track surface at an application rate, let it dry, and then repaint it, and it's basically a brand new surface. And that's much cheaper, obviously, than a full track repair.
Thank you.
And there is some funding in the bond program already for some to do track repair. But what we'll do is when we come back in May, we'll add that information because, like Damon mentioned, those are options that the vendors have included, so that at least we can give you kind of the range of what that looked like from a price point. Obviously, the safety concerns are always, the most paramount thing. People are probably going to get pretty happy when, there's maintenance costs, things like that, right? One of the biggest things is graduation happens on the football fields. We lay tarps and stuff. We do that at Tucson High now. That's an added expense that the district is going to have to take on. So we understand that there are other levels of expenses that are going to have to kind of be dealt with beyond just the installation.
Mr. Hernandez, so with these two being done, if it all passes and go this summer, the rest of the school, we're looking at 4 or 5 years for them to be completed, or?
No, as it rolls out, honestly, because the funding is there, we just don't want to kind of bog down, but we can do them as fast or as slow as we want them. So if Sabino and Pueblo are done now, we could start after football season, after soccer season in the spring, to try to get those done sooner rather than waiting until the 26-27 school year. Right now, our intent was to do one like up to a year. But again, we can do them sooner, just as fast as they come. We've looked at multiple vendors. Obviously, their price points are very different. And so we want to do affordability mixed with quality. And so that kind of bogs down. Everybody's doing it, right? Like Frank mentioned, Sunnyside and Desert View are completely they're complete AstroTurf now. So these guys are getting around, doing business at our fields.
I'll just say, I like sooner rather than later. Like, for example, the track was just done at Rincon UHS, but the field looks terrible. And it's like, now that one part's pretty, it makes the other part like exponentially worse. And so to be able to tie these in, even if it is repair, even if it's 6 to 8 years, I think that is something that we should really look at, because it's not beautiful if it's not beautiful,
Right. Right. Yeah. So we'll bring the layout of packages with track and football field uprights, and then just kind of like your basic model. So,
I have a question about the kind of like the timing and what led up to this. So it sounds like y'all already offered the option to Sabino to have the turf field, or am I wrong about
no,
that?
Sabino, as part of the initial survey that principals were given before we went out for a bond election, Sabino actually put and requested an artificial turf field. And so that was incorporated into the bond package that was taken to the board. And so that's why Sabino got ahead of the game, is because they said that's one of our priorities is football field.
Oh, so now the other principals are.
And so now everybody's like, yes, they're like 9 siblings, right? And so they're all like, you know.
Yeah, and I think they've all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ms. Coleman, you have your hand up?
Yes, it's kind of along the same lines. I'm guessing, I've only been on the Tucson High field as a teacher. So am I hearing that all the other fields are regular turf, not AstroTurf?
Yes, they are all natural grass and dirt.
Okay.
More dirt.
More dirt.
Okay,
than
that
grass.
just helps me to decide. Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'd also like to, I want to echo the sooner than later, because my daughter played soccer, golf, and softball at Saguaro High School, and she played on dirt every year for soccer. Because the way that Bermuda and ryegrass work in the desert, you can't have time to overseed. So it's not fair to all our soccer kids and everybody else. So I'm all in for sooner the better.
Yeah, and we've got some coaches. I know, like the Sabino football coach had said, if I have to play away games the entire season to get my field done, I mean, so there just needs to be some flexibility also on the school side, because we don't want to interfere as much with the students' athletic activities, right? And so we're trying to find a way to get that done. But yeah, I mean, it's only as fast as the vendor is able to do it, because ultimately this entire thing is outsourced.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my question is with the money for the Chromebooks, so like 5 years from now when they have to replace Chromebooks again, was that like thought about, like when we're taking this money away? I'm just trying to think of like a potential clash 5 years from now.
Yeah, so part of it is, right now we're currently on a cycle, so the bond is providing some of that cycle replacement for some of the older Chromebooks that were bought with ESSER funding. The other thing is that we're going to start asking for capital money. So we've accelerated, for example, bonded or textbook adoptions for schools to get those out sooner, so that when those get paid off, we are now kind of into the 3, 4, 5 years of Chromebook replacements. Okay. And obviously we keep an inventory of Chromebooks because, I mean, they're kind of made to break for some. Yeah, they're expendable, but it is part of our future forecasting in terms of the district's regular capital budget. The bond will still provide some, as I mentioned, because it's in there. So we'll be able to still leverage bond money for some of that Chromebook replacement.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So in terms of reallocating, so our role would be to recommend to the governing board and they would have the ultimate decision, or are we saying we're reallocating? How does that work?
So yeah, you're saying you're reallocating, and then if the board accepts that, then we would reallocate those dollars, and then we would move forward with the work. Yeah, that's ultimate.
And is that reallocation within our power? We can do that?
Yeah, we can do that. Okay. Because that's within the categories of the building maintenance and repair. Okay. So we're all staying kind of within the family of categories. We're not doing anything extraordinary.
Okay. Mr. Norquist.
Sorry, yeah,
Yes.
one more question. Just about a couple of numbers on your funding strategy slide. It says all high schools except Innovation Tech have an allocation of $1,727,730, and then the final number for total available amount looks like that number almost as though you should put a 0 behind it, except there's not, and there's a 2 in there. How does that break down? Because it looks like there's 10 schools, so you just multiply by 10, but it's not quite that. So
right. So they were all allocated the dollars, right? And so with Innovation Tech, we're going to take essentially Innovation Tech's part of that, and we're going to use it towards that field repair. So it was allocated all across. It's just that Innovation Tech didn't get field repair all of those pieces, they don't have a field, right? They don't have any
Okay.
athletics activities.
Okay, so when you say there's a total available amount, 17, let's see, what is that? 17,272,730. That's not just innovation tech.
That's
right?
not just enough. Yeah, because University High, so even though Rincon and UHS are on the same campus, each one of their schools got their own allocation of laptop funding.
Right.
Because they have two separate sets of kids, of students.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
So how many total schools are represented in that final available amount?
In that final number, it's 8? 8, right? 8, yeah, because we have 9 schools and 9 schools with fields, and Tucson High is not being done.
Okay, got
Yeah.
it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. So if anybody has any further, if you go home, you think of any further questions or what have you, go ahead and send in your information request form to Ms. Barboa and Mr. Hernandez. That way, Mr. Hernandez and Dr. Carter and her team can come prepared to answer those questions for us at our next meeting. Thank you, Mr.
And Dr. Carter just mentioned we can also piggyback on, as we roll out more domestic water line installations, because those campuses are closed, that makes those installations that much quicker, right? So we can try to piggyback on some of those, but we'll take into consideration, beautifying as quickly as possible. I know. Curb appeal matters, I get it.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Hernandez. We appreciate your presentation. Moving on to future meeting dates and agenda items. Our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, May 15th. I personally may not be here. I'm not 100% sure. I've already discussed it with Ms. Blue. If I'm not here, she will be leading the meeting. I will most likely join on Zoom. And I won't know until it gets closer to that date. So is there any agenda items that anyone would like to see added? Dr. Carter, we will be adding the discussion of the principal surveys at our next meeting, correct? Okay. Okay, so with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn our meeting. May I motion to adjourn the meeting? Second by Ms. Blue. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Abstain? Okay, so we are adjourned at exactly 3:02. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.